Hi guys, my name is Candace Baker. Welcome to my passion project. I hope you enjoy my virtual historical tour through my hometown, Russellville, Kentucky. Logan County Courthouse. This courthouse was built in 1904 and was Logan's third courthouse. From the late 1800s to 1822, the courthouse was located in the middle of the park square. On the top of the courthouse is a fish weather vane that was saved from the courthouse on the square. In the middle of the fish is a bullet hole that was fired by Jim Atkins on a drinking bridge during the Civil War. Opera House. The Opera House was built in 1903. This was to accommodate traveling shows or singers. Inside the house included a wide staircase that led to the second floor foyer. The second floor was completed with the stage, balcony, boxes, and dressing rooms. Jones House. Built around 1810 by Walter Jones, Russellville's first doctor. Later owned by the Norton family that built the bank next door. His daughter married a Byrne, who is also a doctor. Southern Bank of Kentucky. Built by George W. Norton in 1853, this building was not only a bank but a residence. In 1868, it was robbed by the Jesse James Gang. This was the first documented robbery. Later, during the Civil War, over $100,000 of currency was removed from the bank's vault. This money was then hidden to avoid confiscation by the soldiers. Samuel Caldwell House. This house was built around 1805. A rock wall cellar extended across the two front rooms, only accessible through a trapdoor in the floor. Before General Samuel Caldwell owned this house, it was owned by Miss J.T. Linton. Her husband died as a member of Kentucky's legislature, and she followed him in that office. In the recent times, it was home of Sanders Funeral Home. Methodist Temple. Built in 1854. In 1808, it became the oldest church congregation. In 2008, it celebrated its 200th birthday. It was first red brick with a steeple, but in 1917, they took off the steeple and added columns in stucco. In this remodeling, they put the stained glass windows in. O'Bannon House. The original section of the house was built by Presley N. O'Bannon. Mr. O'Bannon came to Russellville in 1807. He made a political career based on his heroism in the Barbary Wars. During this, he planted an American flag for the first time on Phrygian soil at Tripoli. He served in the Kentucky House of Representatives and later as Senate. In 1814, the house was bought by Richard Bibb, Jr., who added a two-story front entrance. Wallace Byron House. Built around 1811 and was originally only a two-room log building, this house was built by Jude William Wallace. This house once served as a tavern and stagecoach. It was later remodeled several times to add more rooms in the 1820s. Wallace died in 1815 and was buried on Lover's Leap on Reservoir Hill. Crittenden House. This house was built in 1811 and then became home of John Crittenden. John Crittenden served as Kentucky's governor from 1848 through 1850. He also served as the U.S. Senate, the U.S. House of Representatives, and the Attorney General under 3 presidents. In the Civil War, his sons fought against each other, meeting at the Battle of Shiloh. Courts Hall. This house is 5 floors and has architect features of all kinds. Built around 1890 by Wynn Courts. Later, the home of Tom Ray. The brick mason Daniel H. Mosley helped build that house and some buildings on Bethel College. Also, the Methodist Temple. Al Smith did a lot of the infrastructure of the house and updated it. He became wealthy by making roads during the Great Depression. Because he was so wealthy, he wanted to make the house the best in Russellville. Caldwell House. This house was built prior to 1824 by General Samuel Caldwell. Caldwell came to Logan County in 1793. Caldwell became the first clerk of the Logan Court, and later he became a merchant. In 1835, Samuel Caldwell died and was buried in the garden behind the house. His wife and 3 children were also buried there with him. Bibb House. A Revolutionary War officer, Major Richard Bibb, built this house in 1820. 9 years later, in 1829, Bibb freed 29 of his slaves and returned them to Liberia. For his remaining slaves, he provided their liberation in his will. He also had 2 sons. John Bibb created Bibb Lettuce. His other son, George Bibb, became Chief Justice of Kentucky, Court of Appeals, and Senate of the U.S., and also became a member of the President Tyler's cabinet. Morton Ryland Flowers Moody House. The log core of this house was built by the Caldwell family, who came to Logan County in the 1790s and led in establishing Russellville. It was first owned by William Jordan Morton, Jr., who arrived from Virginia in 1810. Morton had many jobs in Russellville, including being a deputy sheriff in 1813. In 1886, the house was purchased by William S. Ryland. Ryland was known for being the president of Bethel College and a professor of natural science. Later, in 1919, Agron Flowers, who owned a farm, purchased the house. When Sally Flowers Moody, the daughter of Mr. and Miss Flowers, died, her will dispersed the estate to many charities. The most famous one is the Tilton Scholarship for Russellville or Logan County students. This scholarship has been going on for many years now. Washington House. Built by John Whiting Washington when he came to Logan County in 1804. He first settled in Berea, then came here and built this house in 1820. The family later moved to Texas in 1829. Sexton House. This house is a one-story brick structure made by Owen Mosley in 1870. Legend has it that in 1858, a young girl who lived in the house was dressing to go to a party. A bad storm suddenly came and prevents her from going. She then goes to her room, stands by her window, and curses God and all his creations. Her blasphemy finally came to an end when she was struck dead by a lightning bolt. She laid up against the window, and the shape of the woman pressed on the glass. Her family supposedly had the glass removed and a new pane put in, but the image appeared again. In the summer of 1949, the glass was painted over. The new paint was said to make no difference, that the woman still appeared in the glass. Today, it is owned by Mr. and Miss Bill Province. Old John Neal House. This house was built in the early 1800s. We don't know the name of the person who built this house, but later, John Neal, a Russellville citizen, bought this house. Years later, Mr. and Miss Owen Burchett bought it and made it into an apartment. They remodeled it by removing the old front and side porches and replaced it with entrances of old brick and wrought iron railings. The inside was also remodeled to make it apartments. I would like to thank Miss Evelyn Richardson along with the Logan County Public Library for helping me getting the information I need for this passion project.